Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Week 6 ATTDs. That's what we're going to be coming with. And I've got Jay White on the show, author of the sports betting book. A nice little intro for people if you want to get good into this stuff. Jay White, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Also good. Pretty excited to talk about TDs. People don't know how often we talk about football and especially anytime touchdowns, as that's kind of your go-to play each week. Is it fair to say that?
For sure. That's my thing. It's my favorite. The Sunday conference. People should know about the Sunday conference.
They should. Yeah, I don't like to name my sources. I like to keep you guys anonymous. But either way, this is me revealing one of the conversations that I'm having weekly about this stuff. So I don't want to waste any more time. If you're good with it, we can talk about plenty of these games via the stuff that we're talking about. But why don't we get right into your first ATTD play of the week?
Okay, so I picked out a couple that I like. A couple of these games this week have really high implied point totals, which is always my favorite thing to kind of dive into, especially Ravens Commanders is set at 52.5. I believe that is the highest so far this season. Had several games sail way over 60, I think even a couple have hit 70. Offense is here this year. It's been an interesting start to the season, but this Baltimore-Washington game, I don't think was maybe circled on anybody's calendar preseason as being, a tough matchup. And yet here we are. These are, I think, I want to say 1 and 2, Commanders first, Ravens second in points scored through the first 5 weeks here. This could be a barn burner. And I want to see Scary Terry continue what he's got going the last few weeks. Had a little bit of a slow start the first 2 games, but has really, he was never not wide receiver 1 for the Commanders. And I will say this might be a little bit different for the Ravens this week, thinking about last week against the Bengals, where they had to cover both Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. So, that for sure changes it up a little bit. And obviously the focus is going to be on him. There isn't really, a super strong wide receiver 2 that's going to kind of split that focus. But something is not right with the Ravens defense. I know it, you know it, they know it, everybody knows it. It's not the unit that it was last year. Okay on the ground, but it cannot stop the pass. They just can't. Like, what do you think is going on there?
They don't have the guys in the backfield. I mean, Marlon Humphreys had a couple of nice plays this season, a couple picks, but really has gotten burned plenty. Number 1 wide receivers and number 2 wide receivers and tight ends. I mean, tight ends may be a little bit worse, but yeah, Scary Terry is somebody that I was looking at as well. They've definitely caught up. I mean, I was taking him at like over 43 yards, earlier in the season. And I know we're talking about the touchdown play, but I think longest reception is another consideration for him, which only adds to the fire about what you're saying. They've gotten burned by 100-yard wide receivers like all season so far for the Ravens. And they're so good up front. To a little bit of it at the very least is that you can't run on them, so you have to pass. But I mean, we're gonna mostly see Jaden Daniels doing a lot of the rushing for them anyway, which will be off of pass plays or design runs or RPOs and all that. So I think targeting his best receiver in any way, especially with the odds for the tutty for Terry there, which is still plus money. Yeah, at plus 171 on Underdog. But if you're playing like FanDuel or Caesars or DraftKings, you're still at a really nice plus number there. In fact, there's some nice discrepancy actually if you wanted to take it on FanDuel or Caesars at plus 170 versus the 50 cents it costs you to take it on DraftKings at plus 120. So just something to consider there. But no, you've got to continue to target receivers and passing and receiving props against this Ravens squad. It's just going to be what it is probably all season.
Yeah, good call. I mean, I know we're talking about scoring plays, but what is his line set at? I can't quite see.
For receiving yards, it is at 59.5 on DK. And if you're looking at
right there in front of me, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, it's there's a lot of numbers on the screen. And this is outlier.bet. I should mention that from the top. My bad. But a lot of you know. But if you do want to use this, though, there's a promo code in the description of the video with a link. So that's pretty cool. But for the prop here, 59.5. it's not something I'm scared of. I think he's going to be good for at least one about 25-yard reception in this one. And they've been definitely making a point since like week 2 when I actually laddered his receptions, because they said they were going to make a point to get him the ball a little bit shorter yardage plays for him as well, because they wanted to make sure the ball was in his hands and stop just making him run go routes every single time. But I think the Tutty's a good look for the guy that's going to have a ton of targets once again. You can see, I think that was from about week 2 on. You can see down here, this is 2024 and his targets in the first game 4, then he gets up to 8, 6, 10, and 8 in the last 4 weeks, right? So at least 6 in each of the last 4 weeks. And while he's only pulling in about 4.6 of his 7 targets, like I'll take him to have one of those targets be a nice touchdown, even outside the red zone, to be honest.
Well, especially, with a negative game script, expected here.
Yeah, right.
I do think that the Commanders can hang around, but I do still think that they will be playing from behind. And
to be honest, what would be like, I wonder if the Ravens almost prefer to be coming back, because they've blown so many leads and then won a game last week that they probably should have lost by coming back. Like, I say it a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's just weird that the best rushing team in the league can't close a game. Either way, even if they're not playing from behind, I don't think it's going to be because of big plays off the run game from Brian Robinson Jr. And outside of Jaden Daniels doing that, which is always possible, right? Like Kyler screwed a lot of people last week when he just broke off and ruined one of their drives and not getting Trey McBride more looks because he just ran for like 60 yards in a tutty against the Niners. That's what could happen with Jaden Daniels. But either way, I like this play. I wanted to move on to my next one, if you're good with it.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm looking to start things off. My favorite play of the week right now is going to be from that Jaguars game out in London. Tank Bigsby is who I'm looking at in this one. And there's a couple things that I'm looking at with Tank. Mostly, like, at the very least, we've got to assume that there's like a much more even split coming for the snaps and everything for between Terry and Travis Etienne, who left last week, and that's how Tank got so many carries and such great yardage and looked so good last week. Was that obviously Etienne came out at the end of the second quarter, and in the second half his snap share went all the way down because he was still hurt. Then Tank goes, they don't even, just rush yards here for 37.5. He goes for 101. Week before, I believe Etienne was also missing against Houston, 90 yards in that one. And like there were some struggles for Etienne at the beginning of the season as well. So you've got the usage that's definitely going to be going up for Tank. The other thing I was looking at with him is, even if the usage in between the 20s isn't quite, the same, because now Etienne comes in and gets a bit more of a snap share, you've still got the fact that he's actually got 83% of the team's goal line carries over the course of the past 3 weeks, which included Etienne being in there. And I believe Etienne was in there for a bit against Houston. That's when he got the injury, sim as the following week. So like, regardless of if he's fully healthy, which he's been day to day and like limited at best at practice for Etienne, like you've got to imagine they're going to want to keep giving Tank some carries to at the very least relieve Etienne. And other than that, he's still the main goal line back, unless it just doesn't work out with the way that the drive is working, So I love Tank at the plus. I still got it at plus 240. He is down at this point in for the tutty here, plus. Oh no, it's still plus 295. But that's on Underdog. Yeah, so plus 175 now on regular books. So if you're not playing DFS, which by the way, that's a great misprice for Underdog, if you are playing it. Yeah, but if you're looking at FanDuel DK, it's plus 175, plus 165. So it's come down to about that being market price. I think it should still be about plus 145 for what I consider the best goal line option for this team against the Bears defense, by the way, that's already given up 6 touchdowns to running backs. Last year, they gave up 7 as a whole. So this is a very good pass defense that's probably going to make Brian Thomas Jr. look like a rookie this week, but they're not going to stop the run, and no one's scared to run on them. I've said it the last 2 weeks. I took Kyren and Chuba in the last 2 opponents versus the Bears, because you don't have to pass the ball against Caleb. You're still not really scared of that offense enough that you're like, oh, we got to make sure we put up points and get some air yards here to keep up with Caleb Williams. Like, that's not going to be what it is. I expect him to keep getting better, but I like the touchdowns and a good amount of scoring for London's team. By the way, I would be worried about putting money on the Bears when you've got a Jags team that never loses at home in foggy London town.
I was going to say that. I don't know how much it has to do with this specific pick, but yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. The Jaguars really do just own London. They know how to play there. They know how to travel there. They've been there more than any other team in the NFL. I know everyone is just so ready to fade them every week at this point because they have looked somewhat tragic. But if you're going to take anybody, if you're going to take them, it's here in London. Should I say there? Over there. Mm-hmm. Will I be up at 6:30 a.m. watching this game? Probably not. Sure. But interested to see how this one shakes out. I think the spread is Bears -2. So, still nobody wants to trust
down to 1. Yep, down to 1. They're still listed as the home team. Okay. Yeah, but some people have bet the Jags, who originally were -1 back in the day, but before the Bears looked better than them the last 3 weeks. But all right, cool. Let's get into to your next look here.
Okay. Do you have
whichever way you want to go? I know it's two receivers we're choosing from.
Yes, my next pick is going to be, and this is a little questionable, Mike Evans. Now, hear me out, because everyone on the fantasy wire, I don't play fantasy, but I like to read what everybody's saying. Everybody is saying sit Mike Evans because he is going up against his arch nemesis, Marshon Lattimore. Now, see, I'm not afraid of that, and I think you could not script it any more beautifully than Mike Evans getting his 100th career touchdown against his arch rival. Division matchup, very emotional. I think that could be, I don't like straying too far away from, facts and data, but there are elements to the game that factor in things like, Baker Mayfield wants that for him. And I know people are saying, oh, he got his 100th last week. No, he didn't. One of them was a fumble recovery. He himself doesn't count it as his 100th. That's why he gave the ball to a fan. This is it, and he circled this matchup. Those two hate each other. So as long as they don't get benched in, the first half for chirping at each other, I think Baker's going to be force feeding him. I don't necessarily think that it'll be a super high yardage game for him, but I think that he's going to get a couple bombs. And I just think he's probably more motivated than ever. I mean, this is a whole other story, but everything has happened in Tampa Bay, and I think they really want to get this win. I've read a couple of guys saying on Twitter, we want to win this, for Tampa. This is bigger than us. This is bigger than football.
Love it.
Stuff like that matters. I try to make fact-based recommendations here, but to a certain extent, there are factors that don't necessarily, you can't quantify with a number. And I think that this is one of them.
100%. I mean, I think there's some times where you can go, they're going to force feed this. DJ Moore last week, we're going to force feed him against the Panthers because this dude hates the Panthers and probably also is grateful to them for getting him out of the dumpster fire that is Carolina. But at the very least, we knew he was going to be peppered with targets. Similar concept here, whether it's inside the 20s or in between them, more likely inside of them because of that. I with touchdowns, especially like this, I'm for it. When it comes to getting a guy to reach a milestone, these guys know this stuff. We've seen that endless amounts of times in the NFL where records do matter and guys do want to have the individual accolades. I'm with it. Mike Evans is going to want it, like you said, against Marshon Lattimore. I'll just finish with, I love actually the fact that what he said in the media, and I listen to people in the NFL and the media much more so than the NBA, where they're all liars. In the NFL, I think you can get something out of it. And Mike Evans, Mike Evans said he's got to mature when it comes to his rivalry with Marshon Lattimore. He just needs to make sure he's not getting kicked out of the game and that he's being smart so that he doesn't hurt his team with penalties. I don't think that means he's going to fight any less hard or go as insane on Marshon as he can. But I also know that I don't think he's going to be throwing punches and getting kicked out like has been the case in more than one occasion when these two match up. So
this is a real rivalry. And I will say, proceed with caution, because on the flip side, guaranteed Marshon Lattimore is going to be wanting to play spoiler more than ever just to, to try to ruin that, 100 milestone for him. So, but I don't know if he's having the conversation with himself about, keeping it clean. The fact that Mike Evans is talking about that a week in advance.
Right.
I think that's a, good on him. This is such a consistent guy. He's one of my favorite players. He's never going to put up like the flashiest numbers in a game, but like 1,000-yard season every season.
Every season.
You know? Every season.
You could affectionately call him the cockroach, because he's going to be around till the end of time, catching 1,000 yards a year and having double-digit touchdowns as well. So just just upper high echelon consistency from Mike Evans. So I'm going to actually just stick in that game then, and a simple segue before I get to your last pick and mine as well. I'm going to go with Bucky Irving. And this is somebody that
feeling a type of way after last week.
Say again?
He's feeling a type of way about last week in that fumble.
Yep, 100%. He was, visibly upset.
Oh, he's devastated.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I like, he's still going to be out there. He's still the team's best rusher. Rachaad White is still a bit banged up. We've seen the snap share for Bucky go up and up, as he's at 5.5 yards per carry. And I can't get quite as much stuff here because I need the actual lines for his stuff. I can't pull it up on props.cash, which I'll do. But while I'm pulling it up, like the snap count has gone 31%, 34%. 31% against in week 3 as they were rushing to keep the lead, 41%, 44% in the last 2 weeks. And Rachaad White's been a bit banged up in the last 2 weeks, but not any more or less than he is right now. So I do think he's still going to be giving up a lot of carries and will be used predominantly as the receiving back, as we've seen it up to this point, right? So I'm just on props.cash now because I believe it'll give me some more Bucky Irving stuff. Yeah, they're giving me his yards, even though it might not be available for real. So either way, you can kind of see the rush yards for him are there. I think it's still a low number if you can get under 40. But as far as the touchdowns go, he's also been the goal line back. He's got 100% of the red zone carries in the last 2 weeks. 100% of them. That's the third most red zone carries amongst all running backs in the league, with 8 total in those last 2 weeks. So he's only got 1 touchdown in that time frame in these last 2. Didn't get one against Atlanta. He's one of the only people, it seemed like, to not get one in that game. But either way, like the usage is there, and the opportunity inside the red zone is there. And this is rush attempts here. So 9 in the last 3 weeks, 8 in the last 2. That seems like it's his job now, is being down there. So we're still getting like plus 145 for him to get the tutty, plus 155 perhaps if you have it. So I'm really good with Bucky in this one. It almost feels chalky at this point, but I still think the plus money is not taking into account that he's going to be the lead goal line back.
I don't hate it. I, by the way, have the Bucks to win their division. So they're kind of the only division right now that I'm feeling really questionable about. So got some bias here on this game. But I could absolutely see him getting over the line. He's young. He feels like he needs to make up for that.
Probably, yeah.
Go by, you settle in, you're able to let those things go a lot quicker. That's still keeping him up at night a week later. And that game was just, that whole game was, that's what was last Thursday night.
There we go. Right. Falcons, 509 yards from Kirk. That's right.
That was actually a great game. I don't know why we couldn't remember.
Well, we were talking, Thursday Night Football has been awesome. So other than the Giants and the Cowboys, it's been pretty awesome. So, yeah. Let's get to your last pick here for ATTD. And if you have any leans, I'll definitely just take a list of them. But let me just spoil it, because I love Jayden Reed so much, and I'm really excited to talk about him. So go ahead and get into it.
I love him too. He really has been rolling this year, and I think he's got even with Malik Willis, like he still amassed a pretty respectable, I think it's 115 yards on 8 targets in those 2 games. But with Jordan Love, like they've, even in that kind of democratized offense, I think they have a particular connection. He's got an ability to just line up all over the formation, contribute as a runner, a receiver, and even a returner. Like he's something different. He's not an every down player, but like he's got a route rate of, I think, 80%, which is sufficient enough to support his production. He's been efficient with his opportunities throughout his career. Like he's pretty consistent in that way as well. Right. And last week, without Christian Watson, who, as far as I know, is expected to sit out again, he had season high numbers with a 90% route rate and 37% share of air yards. Yep. The Cardinals, they can't
sorry to interrupt you. It's actually right here. It's 41%, even better than you think.
Perfect.
Yep.
I know the Cardinals locked up the Niners last week, but like, did they really, or did the Niners just do themselves? Like, that's a whole other conversation. But they are really, really struggling to defend anywhere and everywhere on the field.
Yeah.
I think he probably has the shortest odds out of anybody that we're talking about here. I feel like he's probably at like 120, maybe. What is?
Let's see what you can get that at. Yeah, you can get plus 103. No, that's still underdog. It's minus 110 on Caesars, minus 115 DK, minus 125 on FanDuel.
That's getting kind of juiced. But let me take this opportunity to talk about my favorite strategy with touchdown picks is to pair it with money line favorite. This is something I like to do when there's a heavy favorite that I think is going to comfortably win the game, but there's no value in the money line. And for some reason, the spread is just fishy to me, or they are just notorious for selling the spread. This year, that's the Texans. You're not going to take a minus 350 money line, but especially if it's expected to be a higher scoring game, take the touchdown score that you like on the team that you think is going to win and bump those odds up. Like, for something like this, I think if you would put that with Packers money line, you could probably get that up to like plus 200. If you like the Packers here, which I do, that's a great way to kind of offset it. This is something that I've had a ton of success with in the last couple of years. It's kind of my signature move, if you will.
Yeah.
You've seen this go well for me, and I think spots like this is another high scoring game. The Packers are favored by 5. I think they will win, but I could also see Arizona doing something frisky. 5 is a weird number to cover. I don't really like that, but I like the Packers to win at home with Jayden Reed scoring.
Yeah, no, they should, and I like that. I mean, I would say if you're looking at that game, just because I'm curious now. I was thinking about how, I mean, you can run and you can throw, whatever you want to do against Arizona's defense. You can go ahead and get it done.
Just make it up.
Right. Yeah. For Josh Jacobs, minus 120. He's actually got similar odds, slightly worse than Jayden Reed. Like, that could be a decent pairing touchdown play from the same game. They're going to negatively correlate because there's only so many touchdowns to go around, and choosing 2 of those players to get a tutty in the same game is definitely going to give you a bit better juice. I can see this being pretty high scoring. Packers defense has been super disappointing this year, although some people might say not really. I expected them to suck in a lot of ways, especially on the ground. I don't want to misspeak. But either way, like, Arizona's defense against wide receivers and running backs, 24th in terms of touchdowns allowed, but 28th in terms of touchdowns overall to any player. I think Jayden Reed's a great look. The same concept here versus wide receivers, giving up receiving yards, giving up touchdowns, whatever you want. So I'm great with this one for both players. Honestly, like I said, that's another way to juice the Jayden Reed one. But I'd rather pick a player from the opposing side. Like, I'd put Jayden Reed with James
Marv. Marv. Either one would be a good matchup, as opposed to picking 2 in the same game. I would say either or. Josh Jacobs has been a bit of a disappointment to start the season. Strong numbers, but last week was the first time that he got into the end zone. Like, what was that all about?
Really, he didn't have a tutty before that.
No.
Oh wow, yeah, none this year other than last week. He might be disappointing from that sense, but he's definitely had good rushing numbers. And the only 2 times, because I do like him, I gave this out as well, and this will be in the player props video, so spoiler. But I gave out over 61 or 60. It ended up going up to 65.5 rushing yards for Josh Jacobs. And I was still good with that against this Arizona defense. And the 2 defenses he did not get the yardage against this season: Tennessee, Minnesota. Only 14 rush attempts, 9 rush attempts here. You don't run on these 2 teams. That's what they stop. They both limit stuff for the running back, rushing yards, the rest of it. So at any rate, I mean, I hope Arizona.
If you're talking about scoring, I would proceed with caution on him.
On Josh.
Yes.
That's fair. Yeah, I can't explain to you why he didn't get a touchdown after running for 151 yards against Indianapolis. I don't have an answer for that. The Philadelphia game, they did end up having, like, Jayden Reed took one of his rushing touchdowns in that one. So to your point, Jayden Reed just as easily could rush one in from anywhere on the field. So he's so freaking good with the ball in his hands. But let me go to a game that should have a lot of touchdowns. and offer up one of them, which is the tight end Sam Laporta for the Lions. But this Lions and Cowboys game, I think it's at a 52.5 total. Yeah.
If I may say, like,
You
I
may.
cannot wait for that game. You know that,
Yeah.
you know, the Lions are so ready
So
after,
right.
you know, you know, they're going to be screaming if they're
Yeah.
going to report as eligible. Like they're going to make up for that game last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
They
got
definitely haven't gotten over it for sure.
Yeah.
And the
They got
Cowboys
hosed.
they're on fraud watch. They've
Sick.
been on fraud watch. The
Yeah.
Lions are not. I think the Lions win this by 10, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, they are frauds. They pulled one out against the Steelers by giving Rico Dowdle 20 touches of the ball in that one. Somehow pulled it out. Still had like better than 4 yards of carry. I'll give him that. But either way, for this game, like, yeah, this is going to be passing. It's going to be interesting because I mean, you run on the Cowboys, right? Like they're terrible. They cannot stop the run. They're a sieve. Micah Parsons is still hurt. Believe Dexter Lawrence is still hurt. So yeah, you still bet against them. DeMarcus, which one is it? It's DeMarcus. Dexter's on the Giants. I always mess it up. DeMarcus Lawrence. But either way, their linebacking core that is there to stop the run and pressure the quarterback. Looking like there's going to be holes in the defense. Also, it impacts the coverage of tight ends. Obviously, they've been pretty bad against wide receivers. They've been decent against wide receivers and tight ends, worse against wide receivers, but they just can't stop the run. I don't need Sam Laporta to like score. Interestingly, he actually scores a lot of his touchdowns from far away, but he also has effectively, when he's been healthy, finally been a good red zone target for Jared Goff. So I just think at the number that we're getting for him, sorry, and I'll pull the number back up. Like, yeah, plus 225 still. That's on Caesars. They're still all around 2-1 for Sam Laporta. There's a lot of touchdowns to go around in that game. He's going to be somebody that has around the best numbers. And with
David
the best.
Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are both probably at minus 130, minus 140 right now.
I'm just going to pull that game.
Those are not bad choices, but you know, if you're looking for value, like it's lost.
Right.
It's there.
Right. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm putting together something for this game. I'm going to pull up a touchdown just to see everybody's numbers. But I'm going to put something together for this game that's going to be like Gibbs and Monty to both get 50 yards rushing against this like I said, sieve of a defense for the Cowboys on the rush defense anyway. And then probably add Dak like 250, CeeDee Lamb. I can't not see 13 receptions for 227 against them last December and not go back to CeeDee Lamb against a team that's a pass funnel and can't stop the pass. But yeah, just to look at the numbers that you were saying, like how much we think each person's probably at. If you're just going over on touchdowns here, CeeDee is going to be at about minus 120, 125. Jahmyr's at minus 125. Monty's at minus 150. Amon-Ra's at plus 105. I thought about him plus 124 in some places because just for value. And even like a Jameson Williams at almost 2-1 is similar to me in terms of Sam Laporta. But I think Laporta is obviously a better target in the red zone. So I think the ball's going to be moving up and down the field, maybe in different ways at times. But Jared Goff in the dome, yeah, give me all this in a 52.5, total. Like, do you have a preferred TD play from this one over Laporta?
I don't know. I'm a little. Laporta burned me a couple weeks ago.
He's burned me before.
You know, I could see vulturing happening here.
Yeah.
I like it because I like that number.
Yeah.
You know, like I was just talking about, this would be a great, you know, if you would prefer to kind of go with something safer, put Monty with the Lions to win. Like that's probably going to be like plus 170, I want to say. I like that, but I don't not like Laporta as well.
Yeah.
This would be a game, and I really try to avoid doing this, but this would be a game where I would maybe pick out a couple guys, even from one team, being the Lions, and maybe put them together. Laporta and Monty.
Yeah.
You know, with those.
And I do think Dak is gonna be able to make something happen through the air. I would be looking at, let me look at his passing touchdowns and stuff, because I will say Dak, and this is not a great bet, but that's why you get odds on it. He's plus 500 on FanDuel to get a rushing touchdown or just an anytime touchdown that's not passing. He has one this season versus Baltimore. And that is it for a while. He only had 2 all of last season. So
you put in the ball. What? I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, he apparently ran it in against Baltimore this year.
Huh.
Yep. There was a red zone
Or
attempt.
after they lost to the Raiders, which I'm not gonna. I
Right.
haven't forgotten that yet. By the way, I feel like people have gotten very high on the Ravens. They have the third shortest odds to win the Super Bowl. I still remember when the Raiders beat them. It wasn't that long.
I remember. And pass TDs for Dak, I would also consider. But it's pretty doo-doo odds at this point. Maybe you take him for 3+, but either way, there's gonna be touchdowns coming in this game. So
Fine.
yeah. All right, we got to roll. I appreciate the time. This was very helpful. Thank you so much. We are definitely gonna get you back on here. We'll see how these do, obviously, but still want to get you back on here because I know that you love your TDs and we got to get into it each week. But any parting words for the people?
No, I think that this is probably the best week coming up. The one that I'm most excited about. It was kind of a weird start to the year. But like I said at the beginning, offenses are really rolling, and there are a couple that could just be shootouts here. And the options, I don't want to say are endless, but it feels
They're good.
in our favor. There's
Yeah.
plenty to pick from. There's going to be
Yeah.
scoring to go around this weekend. So I'm really excited to watch that Lions-Cowboys game. Excited to watch Bucks and Saints, Commanders and Ravens, all of those. I'm kind of really keeping an eye out for. And the Niners crushed the Seahawks last night, so we are happy.
All is well in your universe.
As well.
Love to hear it. Love to hear. Yeah, we're looking at some pretty nice totals across the board. There's some 47.5, 52, 51.5, another 47, another 47. So last night was 48.5 and still went over to the tune of 60. So really loving the offenses right now. Like you said, we were dry at the beginning of the year, but we might be turning the point, and this is the point where you want to get the value on the TDs before we do have a few weeks in a row of everybody scoring, and then the odds go right back down to all minus money. But either way,
I think like that. This is the best you're going to see for him. I think.
100%. So appreciate the time, Jay White. We'll be talking soon, I'm sure. And either way, everybody out there, appreciate all the time as well. Go ahead and make sure you like the video, all that good stuff. Until we see you next, happy betting.
Happy betting.